What is Trump going to do?
Or nice.
So what's Trump going to do next? Is he really going to go to war and put us into problems? This is insane. In this episode of Jesse Waters Primetime, let's see what facts the man bring forward and let us know of what's happening with Trump in this World War III issue. It could be World War III. But by the way, welcome to my show. My name is Noel. Here at Verbal on Life, Fisticuffs. Go ahead and give this video a like before you go anywhere. Now let's take a look.
Fox News alert, there's been an earthquake in Iran, 5.1 magnitude right outside the capital. But the war isn't slowing down. Iranian missiles hitting cities in Israel, one missile hitting an Israeli daycare center. The USS Nimitz carrier strike group arrives in the region this weekend, doubling the number of aircraft carriers there. Trump telling reporters that 2 weeks isn't a deadline. Anything could happen before then.
Does Iran have 2 weeks, or could you strike before that? Are you essentially giving them a 2-week timeline?
I'm giving them a period of time. We're going to see what that period of time is, but I'm giving them a period of time, and I would say 2 weeks would be the maximum.
This period of time gives Trump more military options as he moves more assets into place. It could also be a setup for a surprise attack, and it lets Israel soften up Iranian targets and suppress their capacity to retaliate.
How about giving Israel time to do something and stop waiting for America to jump in the fight? Hopefully, we don't have to jump in and they can take care of their own problems.
If Trump does decide to join the offensive, continued Israeli bombardment could pressure the Iranians to sign away their nuke program. Trump's hoping that's the case. Today, Iranian negotiators met with European diplomats in Switzerland, but there was no breakthrough. The regime continues to insist on enrichment. Trump says negotiations with the Europeans, waste of time.
Did the Europeans help at all in talking with the Iranians?
No, they didn't help. No. Iran doesn't want to speak to Europe. They want to speak to us. Europe is not going to be able to help in this.
Iranian negotiators are saying they'll only meet with the United States if Israel stops its airstrikes. But Trump has already said, we're not interested in a ceasefire. We want a solution. And the Israeli airstrikes have been very effective.
Would you support Iran being able to have civilian nuclear energy capabilities up to 3.76%?
You know, they're sitting on the top of one of the largest piles of oil in the world. I just don't know why they need that for civilian work. You know, it's one thing for certain countries to say, hey, I want to have a certain amount where I can go nuclear a little bit because we need it for electricity. We need it for air conditioners, etc. But when you're sitting on one of the largest oil piles anywhere in the world, it's a little bit hard to see why you need that.
The march to war was picking up speed, and the 2-week window takes the pressure off and gives Trump control of the timeline, not Netanyahu. There's risks to action, and there's risks to inaction. It's like life-saving emergency surgery. It's delicate and dangerous. Sources say the president's looking at what happened to Libya. Quote, the president in recent days has specifically mentioned the oil-rich North African country's decades-long plunge into anarchy in 2011, after the U.S. joined a NATO bombing campaign to oust dictator Muammar Gaddafi. Gaddafi saw America topple Saddam over WMDs, so he got rid of his program voluntarily, thinking it would save him from an invasion. But Obama, Hillary, and the Europeans exploited the vulnerability, launched airstrikes, and Gaddafi was brutally murdered by the Arab Street. Libya is now a failed state. It's run by militias and terrorists. And Europe had to absorb waves of refugees. Air campaigns aren't always successful. Look at North Vietnam. Look at Kosovo. They're attractive because they limit casualties, but Trump's ruled out boots on the ground.
Is an aerial campaign in Iran enough, or do you need ground forces?
Well, I'm not going to talk about ground forces. The last thing you want to do is ground forces.
Iran's mountains and deserts create a natural fortress, and any ground assault would be a death wish. If the Ayatollah's taking out in an airstrike or a coup, there's no natural opposition group to seize power. Those in charge will be men with guns, and they will try to bring back some sort of clerical leadership because after all, this is an Islamic republic. If the supreme leader were toppled and foreign enemies sought to foment public unrest by bombarding the country, enforcing a no-fly zone and applying economic pressure, as they did against Saddam Hussein's Iraq in the 90s, the Guard would use brute force to maintain power. This is the reason Trump and his team have been working around the clock to reach a deal behind the scenes. 47 knows if you snuff out the Ayatollah without planning for the aftermath, he owns what happens next.
President, are you concerned that Iran or its proxies would wage terror attacks against American targets abroad if you order military action?
We're always concerned about that, and we have to take them out and be very strong. You're even in danger talking to me right now. Do you know that? You are in danger talking to me right now. So I should probably get out of here. But you guys are actually in danger. Can you believe it?
If the United States did take military action, the Iranians could have a clandestine nuclear operation. They could activate it without us knowing and spin up a nuke in the dark. Once the missiles start flying, things move fast. The exiled Shah's son is already meeting with congressmen and planning for a post-Ayatollah Iran. At least there's planning for what comes next. You couldn't say that for some of these other wars. This is why there's only one commander-in-chief. President Bill Clinton, he was given an opportunity to preemptively strike North Korea's nuclear program in the 90s. He chose not to. And today, North Korea can put a nuclear warhead on an intercontinental ballistic missile within the range of California. Bill Clinton also was given the opportunity to take out bin Laden in the 90s. He chose not to. And then just a few years later, 9/11. Iraq, Libya, North Korea, bin Laden. These are all fresh in 47's mind. As he likes to say, we'll see what happens.
Trump is not going to let none of that happen to us.
Let's bring in foreign policy expert Harley Lippman and Major John Spencer, chair of urban warfare studies. All right, Major John Spencer, how is this different than Iraq? A lot of people are thinking about that war.
Yeah, I think because the goal is not regime change. Iraq was, of course, I was on the ground looking for WMDs and the intelligence was wrong. But this isn't Iraq, this isn't Libya, this isn't a regime change, nation building. We're not going to fire the entire, basically, Iraq government and institutions and then start to rebuild everything. Iran is a functioning, vibrant society of intelligent, middle class. It isn't a third world country. And yes, you don't know what comes after, but let's be clear, the goal is not regime change. The goal is limited like it should be, the destruction and complete dismantling of the Ayatollah's nuclear program. And that can be done by force and with a combination of political. Israel's doing a pretty good job of doing it by force. I don't know if you've seen, but they think they've killed 14 of the 15 nuclear scientists in their program. I mean, that's like killing Oppenheimer and the entire team before the Manhattan Project even began.
I would hate to be the 15th nuclear scientist that's still alive. Harley, what are the risks associated with a limited air campaign led by the United States against the Iranian regime?
Well, one, you could have a refugee crisis.
And I will figure they will see that's a threat and start maybe trying to fight the United States. So it's like declaring war.
But that's really engineered by Iran, because while Israel and America would probably warn the civilian population if there's going to be an attack, as Israel's been doing to Iran, Iran has shut down the internet. So you can't warn the Iranian people, and it makes it very difficult for them. So that's a challenge. And also, we don't want them to get into rallying around the flag where they become nationalistic. We're being attacked. We got to support our leaders. We have to be very sensitive and mindful of that. But on the other hand, think of what happened. Israel took out the nuclear reactor in Iraq. They never rebuilt it. Israel took it out in Syria. They never rebuilt it. Look at Japan in World War II. We used a nuclear bomb. Everybody thought, oh my God, you're creating a new precedent. Every country is going to use nuclear bombs in wars and conflict. No nuclear bombs have been used in 80 years. And the same thing lastly with Germany. We finished the war with Germany and everybody thought, oh my God, they're going to be people going into the woods and the hills. There's going to be resistance. They'll continue fighting. You can't beat an ideology. When you defeat an enemy, you have resolution, and that's how you have closure.
What kind of closure, Major, would it be if we did neutralize the nuclear site and took out most of the ballistic missile stockpiles, but the Ayatollah stayed in power? Is that closure?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you'd have to do it just like they did in Iraq in the 80s when they took out the Iraq war, and it was proved to work. You have to have inspectors. You have to trust but verify. Like I trust this Ayatollah as far as I can throw him. But yeah, I think it would work. The complete destruction, and then he stays in power. But there's this, I mean, war is an active force to compel your enemy to do your will. You would think the Ayatollah would get the message that President Trump is sending.
And Harlan, can you trust the Netanyahu?
You know, it's crazy that the United States is sending a message, but what about the Europeans? How come they don't get involved? Like, you know, they got the power, they could get involved, and it's in their continent. So why us?
Government, if we do go in there and we do take out this nuclear site, are we still able to stop him from a decapitation strike against the Ayatollah? Because, you know, these hospitals and daycare centers get hit over and over again. I mean, I don't know what he's going to do.
Well, that's a great question. We have to think if that's a wise idea to allow him to stay in power. He has gone on his social media promising to assassinate President Trump. This is who this man is, the Ayatollah. And he's responsible for the death of over 1,000 Americans, from the Shia militias in Iraq to the Marine compound and the U.S. Embassy in Beirut. They want to destroy America. Now, if the United States really wants the Ayatollah to stay alive and puts pressure on Israel, Israel, I think, will acquiesce because it's extremely important for Israel.
You know, that's so crazy to believe that Iran wants to destroy America. They look like a third world country. They don't look like they're a developed country that could do anything. So, and then the other side of the world, what should we be scared of?
To have President Trump aligned with Israel and to have America a good ally and to be happy and be satisfied with what Israel is doing.
Yeah, you definitely want to keep Donald Trump happy. Major, if he does leave because of a strike or a coup or something happens to the Ayatollah, does the army just take over, and then what's the difference?
Yeah, I mean, there are lots of variations of that. And as you said, the King Pahlavi has been basically trying to gather enough support for him being the expat, you know, kind of the new government. And that's the thing, is when you get into that category, you don't know where it's going to go. You don't know if you're going to get something worse, but it is up to the 90 million non-Islamic people of Iran, the Persian majority, to make that decision. And I think they would. And we saw during the Masha Amini Women Like Freedom protest that they voted with their feet. And at this point, the regime is weakening. But this is why, again, that's not the goal of this operation.
All right. Gentlemen, thank you so much. Have a great weekend. We really appreciate your analysis.
Crazy.
All right, well, we caught Gavin Newsom doing something very shady during the riots. Tom Homan is in the house.
All right, let me pause it for the commercial break. But yeah, it's crazy that we got Trump negotiating or but having an idea of what to do on the other side of the world against Iran. Like, they got other countries around Iran that could maybe have a say or maybe like try to stop him. Why gotta be us? You know, it's crazy. But thank God we got Trump as the president and who could do something about it. Because Kamala, I don't think would have done anything as a president. It would have been hell. All right, let me fast forward past the commercial. Check it out.
Today, the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals panel unanimously ruled 47's National Guard activation in California was constitutional. A Biden judge even agreed.
Yeah.
If Gavin did his job, Trump wouldn't have had to do it for him. Today, we're finding out Gavin was a little preoccupied during the riots. Fox News has an exclusive photo from Chris Rufo that shows Newsom throwing back a glass of cab in Napa while LA burned. Quote, As riots engulfed Los Angeles and mobs vandalized public buildings, Gavin Newsom was enjoying a swanky wine tasting party in Napa Valley. It featured contemporary yet sophisticated wines, live jazz music, and locally made pizza and smash burgers. Honestly, that sounds amazing. I wish I was there. But I wish Newsom wasn't. Newsom's not the only one who needs to put down the bottle. The media is already blaming Trump for riots that haven't happened yet.
If he deploys the National Guard in New York, it'll cause it's going to cause a giant outrage and create probably more violence.
It's crazy. They're hoping riots happen in New York and that chaos happen. So they're putting it out there into the universe. Hopefully New Yorkers will listen and follow what she's saying. That's crazy.
Violence than there would be anyway.
Isn't that what he wants?
Well, that's of course one of the working theories, that he wants to, create this all over the country and then, declare martial law.
Biden helped traffic illegals into this country for 4 years, and they said nothing. Now they're mad because Trump is trafficking them home.
We have ICE federal agents pulling up, terrorizing our communities, hopping out of unmarked vans, stealing, and yes, kidnapping.
Doing their job. You got officers doing what they're supposed to do. Stop using the words kidnapping and terrorizing community. This is BS.
People, not giving them their day in court, and yes, human trafficking them to other nations, other countries around the entire world.
Those are called deportations, Maxwell. It's like when someone steals your girlfriend. It's not called kidnapping. It's called game. Everything you're seeing is theater. Democrats are either burning down a city or singing Trump a song. Listen.
Hey, Trump. Where you going with that gun in your hand? I'm going down the street and shoot down democracy. You know I want to be a king someday.
It's like Greg said, if Hank had friends, they never would have let him do that. Storming Kristi Noem, locking arms with illegals. It's all a show. They want mugshots for clicks and cash. And now they want
These are all movie wannabe actors that are just trying to get in front of a camera, and they do their best job crying. Grown men crying looks bad.
Mugshots for ICE.
If I was a prosecutor, the top prosecutor in my state, and these rogue agents arrested somebody like Alex Padilla, who was just exercising his First Amendment right in his own office building, and had him arrested, if I had a criminal statute that met the facts, I would use it.
Democrats and handcuffs. It's like a fetish. And they actually think they're marching on Selma.
Well, if you think about the civil rights movement, part of that was because Black people weren't in a lot of positions of power. What we've seen break out is not about civil disobedience. It's about lawmakers actually doing their job and trying to find a way to do it. And
they look so bad because if the people at the top, the lawmakers, are the ones fighting police officers, guess what the people at the bottom are going to do? The criminals are going to say, hey, everybody's doing it. Let's go. Worst idea to send out.
administration that's not cooperating. That's called getting Black people treatment by law enforcement.
Civil disobedience is supposed to be civil, and it's usually done by people, not the politicians. Where's the rest of the country? They're not sticking themselves to illegals like Velcro.
Nope.
We wouldn't even have this problem if Democrats didn't let 20 million illegals in. Assaults on agents are up 400%. They're getting doxxed. Their families are being threatened because Democrats are filming them do their job and MS-13's watching. But the guy who made you mask up during COVID suddenly has a different message.
If you notice, we have federal law enforcement agents who now wear masks. There is no reason why a law enforcement agent should be allowed to wear a mask. Take off the mask. Show the American people who you are if you're not ashamed of your actions.
Border czar Tom Homan joins us now. Is Cuomo a joke?
Yes.
Yeah. And you made it clear that the agents who wear a mask protect themselves and their families. Not only are they being doxxed, their spouses are being doxxed. Their children are being doxxed. And you said it, assaults up over 400%. They're doing the job that Congress told them to do, and they appropriate them funding to do. And they're executing orders that a federal judge says, arrest that person, deport that person. They're not making this up. They're trying to protect themselves. The job's already dangerous, but it's much more dangerous now because.
How's that guy running for mayor? He got already booted out for being the governor of New York, but now running for mayor, and he's talking about the police officers that are doing their job to take off their mask. Man, this is the worst. I hope he doesn't win.
So the rhetoric you're hearing from the Democrats.
Well, Swalwell wants to arrest ICE agents, and the other Democrat said it's kidnapping what they're doing.
Well, Swalwell, he's far from brilliant, right? So again, a member of Congress, if you don't like what ICE is doing, then legislate, change the law, because we're enforcing laws they enacted. We're not making this up. So it's another Democrat lawmaker who wants to target ICE on enforcing laws they enacted. And meanwhile, he didn't say a word about a half a million children being smuggled in the country under Biden. He didn't say a word about losing 300,000 of them. He didn't say a word about over 400 people on terrorist watch lists coming across.
Those people should suffer penalties for doing this. They are politicians, all right? They are high-ranking politicians, and they're just causing trouble. Big penalties should be coming towards them.
He didn't say a word about a quarter of Americans dying from fentanyl coming across an open border. He didn't say a word about sex trafficking sixfold under Joe Biden. He didn't say a word about a record number of migrants who died crossing the border, which is over 4,000, another historic record. They were silent during all that because they were complicit, because they lied about the border being secure, and they didn't say a word. But now all of a sudden, like you said, it's okay for them to come in, but now we enforce law to make them go home. They have a problem.
Yeah, now they're singing. They're not silent. They're playing the guitar. I'm sorry you had to hear that. Next time we'll give the viewers a little bit of a warning. Gavin Newsom having some drinks while his city was burning, and then he lost in court. What kind of governor is that?
He's disgusting. I was in Los Angeles when the riot started. We were there serving 3 criminal search warrants, part of a criminal investigation into money laundering, tax evasion, and customs fraud in the garment district. And it's part of a bigger investigation about how some of this funding makes it to Colombia and Mexico to fund cartel activity. That's what we were doing. It wasn't an immigration raid. It wasn't a migrant raid. We weren't looking for people different than us. We were serving criminal warrants by part of a bigger overarching criminal investigation. I was there the first 2 nights when 1,000 people surrounded that federal building. We had employees inside. We had aliens we arrested inside, put at danger. They were breaching that building. I saw what was happening on the ground. Thank God President Trump deployed the National Guard. It was a great move.
So Joe Biden let in, was it 10, 20? No one knows how many millions of migrants into the country. Do you have the manpower to get them all out of here in the next, 4 years?
No, we don't. And that's why the big, beautiful bill needs to get passed. Congress needs to get off their butt and fund this. The American people give President Trump a mandate. For instance, we got 1.4 million illegal aliens walking the streets of this nation who had due process at great taxpayer expense, were order removed. They got open order removal. We got to find these people and remove them. We got 600,000 illegal aliens with criminal records walking the streets of this country. President Trump wants to focus on the criminals, the public safety threats, the national security threats. We can't do it with less than 5,000 deportation officers. This bill will give us more deportation officers. It gives us more bed. Every illegal alien we arrest, we need a bed because we got to hold them for several days to several weeks to get them removed on air flight. We need more air flights. We need more bus transportation. We can't do this unless Congress gives us the money to do it.
You know, Democrats are making money off of these illegals, like servicing them. Somebody getting paid. A lot of people getting a lot of money. So people don't want to quit their jobs. And so they support these illegals to continue with their jobs, even though it's hurting the country.
Every public safety threat we arrest tonight, tomorrow night, and every night this year makes this country safe again. We can do more with more money. Without money, we're just not going to be able to complete it.
You're saying you have 2 million migrants right now. They've already either gotten due process where a judge has already said, you're out. They've been ordered deported, or they're criminals. They've been convicted of a crime. That's who the Democrats say they want to get out of here. So 2 million already right now, they're supposed to be gone.
Exactly. Absolutely. And that's what we're trying to do. We will continue to prioritize public safety threats and national security threats, but without additional funding, without passing that big, beautiful bill, there's going to be less of it. I think every American wants safer streets, and we need that bill passed to make these streets even safer.
Okay. Gavin Newsom?
You know what? More and more public members agree that illegals got to be deported. All right, let's get them all out.
Cheers. Come home and good luck. Here's Johnny.
Out your dad.
Gone away.
He's passed away.
Well, in prison.
All right, let me pause it for the commercial break. By the way, if you're still watching and you like this show, give it a thumbs up. That's all I want, so we can get it out to more and more people. My name is Noel. But yeah, we got to get more illegals out, man. They skipped the line and they're just out here breaking the law. I don't want to hear about grandmother and the babies being deported. No. Let's deport the criminals, and then we'll worry about the old lady and the babies getting deported. I don't want to hear about that right now, because this is not the time. Right now, we got to get all these illegal migrants deported. All right, let's get back to Kamala Harris.
And our work is not done. And as you all know me, because we have spent long hours, long days, and months and years together, it is not my nature to go quietly into the night. So don't worry about that.
We are worried. Juneteenth came and went, and Kamala was AWOL. Instead, Democrats flew a ghost to a black church.
Erase our history. Not just here, but this guy. Too many people are trying to erase our history.
The ghost of Joe Biden isn't just haunting the party, he's haunting commuters. Joe's driving people crazy on Amtrak. The New York Post says he won't stop yapping in the quiet car, and he keeps demanding ice cream cones. Conductors are shushing him, and they don't serve ice cream, so they're just giving him muffins. Sources say AutoPen's been riding the rails to a government-funded office in D.C., but nobody knows what he's doing there. Democrats are just hoping Biden gets lost in the closet again. They're still recovering from what he did to the party.
They're getting attacked from all sides. The other problem that they have is that there's no real leader. You know, if right now we're leaderless, we're messageless, we're agendaless, we don't have any alternative ideas to the presidents and the Republicans right now. So I'm concerned, to say the least.
Others in the party want to re-rack Kamala again, but they need to put her in rehab first, and are making up alibis for the landslide.
But we didn't have enough of a campaign on the back end. And I think it's a little unfair to say it's Kamala Harris's fault, because she didn't ask for the circumstances which were visited on her.
The View is still doing damage control.
Did you know instantly that this was going to be meaningful the way she answered it?
I knew it instantly when she answered it, which is why I asked the follow-up question. Is there one thing? You know, because I knew, I could see the soundbite and I knew what was going to happen. But I thought it was a really fair question, and I thought it was a question that she would expect.
It wasn't a gotcha question.
By any means.
It shouldn't have been a gotcha question.
Crockett says Kamala's resume is much more than just a McDonald's fry cook.
Kamala Harris, light years ahead of Donald Trump as it relates to qualifications, as it relates to her overall resume. You had a younger, qualified, non-felon candidate, and somehow the people still chose the old white man.
She is so dumb. I hope she runs for president, because what the hell is she talking about? I think everybody should see right through her. I'm feel sorry for those who don't, but she is so dumb.
Others are playing what if. One insider says tampon wasn't Kamala's top pick. She wanted a shark instead. No, not O'Leary, someone else.
My response was, I'm not very good as the number two person. And so the last thing we need is me telling Kamala, the president, that, no, that's a dumb idea, right? And I'm not real good at the shaking hands and kissing.
Well, I don't know.
My personality is completely different than Tim's. My experiences, my backgrounds are completely different. I think I cut through the more directly. I'm not a politician. And so it would have been different, but it would have been awful. She would have fired me.
It would have been better than
days.
present.
Besides selling the Mavericks, probably the smartest thing Cuban's ever done. Carville says Kamala could have picked Kid Rock and it wouldn't have mattered. Democrats treated Trump voters like aliens.
We should say to these people, we kind of understand what you were trying to say,
but you were betrayed. Democrats acted like these people didn't exist. All right, they just did. And don't come back and say we acted like working class, particularly working class, non-college whites, were not part of our too cool for school group. And we betrayed you somewhat, and we now learned our lesson. I think that's the best way.
Democrats have one weapon left, the coup. And voters want a knife fight. 60% agree the party leadership should be replaced. Oh, it is going to be a bloodbath. Joe Concha joins me now. Are you noticing a little Kamala Harris rehab going on? But she's not around.
Yeah, rehab, Jesse, is a very interesting word to use here with Kamala Harris. She needs a little liquid courage, apparently, to get back into public. And look, if Kamala Harris, Jesse, is the Democratic nominee, and polls show right now that she is the absolute favorite to do so, mark it down, save the tape, take it to the bank. She will lose worse in 2028 than she did in 2024. And here's why. This time, she won't be able to just run for 100 days and hide for most of that time. Kamala Harris will be front and center if she is a nominee for many months, if not a year and a half. These campaigns start in 2027 early on. And here's what we saw during the 2024 campaign. The more she spoke, the more voters got to hear from her. Remember, in August, her polls were pretty good. By October, they had come down. Because when she speaks outside of a teleprompter, she is a human Chernobyl. So if you want to roll the dice and put this nominee out there again, that's fine if you're the Democratic Party. But if you're J.D. Vance,
They should put her and Crockett, that other young lady who called her amazing. If both of those run, it is going to be a slaughterhouse. They're going to lose.
or Marco Rubio or whoever's going to be the Republican nominee, you are begging for that to be the outcome as far as your opponent's concerned.
Yeah, she needed less time, not more. Joe Biden having a good time. He's riding Amtrak, asking for ice cream cones that they don't serve on the train. I mean, doesn't he have cancer? He's doing Juneteenth church rallies. He's going into work in D.C. What's going on here?
Well, I guess there's not enough yachts to water ski behind if you're Joe Biden, because you have to do all these public appearances, paid speeches. I don't know why he just isn't staying in Rehoboth at Delaware at his multi-million-dollar mansion on the beach there. Instead, fake doctor Jill Biden keeps putting him out there, I guess, to try to save his legacy. And as you described it, they're putting basically an apparition out there to go after Donald Trump when even Democrats are saying, please go away. This is a reminder of your entire presidency. The fact that there was this failed cover up, the fact that his brain turned to mashed potatoes when he was president. Even before then, you can make the argument. And now he's a reminder of everything that everybody voted for in terms of Donald Trump winning, the Democratic Party losing. And even Democrats are saying, please, Joe, go away. No more. We don't want to see you anymore.
And we don't have any more ice cream on the train. I'm sorry, big guy. No more. Joe Concha, good to see you.
And chocolate chip. Thanks.
Fox News alert. We have new disturbing details about Minnesota murder suspect Vance Belter, the assassin who disguised himself as a cop to shoot down Democrat politicians and their spouses. He killed 2 and seriously injured 2 others. Today, we're finding out he wrote a letter to the FBI claiming he was trained by the U.S. military, quote, off the books, and that Tim Walz asked him to kill Amy Klobuchar so he could take her Senate seat. Belter's facing state and federal murder charges.
Whoa.
Sink or swim, up next.
That's crazy. We're going to leave it right there, but everything is looking crazy, especially for the Democratic Party. Right now, the Democratic Party, they don't have a winning candidate. I don't know who stands out of them. Every time you say you're a Democrat or you hear Democrats, you think crazy people. You think wokeness. You think people who just want to open the border, who want to destroy this country. There's nobody with a positive message. Not even Barack Obama, but he already shot himself in the foot talking nonsense. So whoever they put up in is going to lose. I don't see any of them winning coming up in 2028 or even 2026 for the midterms. But that's what I'm thinking. Comment down below. Give this video a thumbs up if you like what you saw. And what was the other thing that he was talking about? Going to war with Iran. It's crazy that Trump got to decide what he's going to do. He said 2 weeks. He's going to make a decision within 2 weeks. So it could be less than that. And it's going to be like we're watching like a real life movie with the best president we ever had, Donald Trump. Say it ain't so, but it is so. Donald Trump is the best. And he's going to do amazing. I think the best thing that happened to Trump was losing in 2020 and then coming back because now he knows what's up. He was the president already once. This second time around, he's not taking any chances. He's doing everything that he can to make things right. But comment below. Let me see what they wrote here. Shout out to Peter Hand. Who gives a goddamn what you think? I do. With that said, give it a thumbs up before you go anyway. All right. That was a comment by Peter Hand. I'm over here just doing my best live streaming, giving you guys my opinion, and I got to go. I'm battling MS. So let me see if I can still walk. With that said, come back tomorrow. Peace.